holding yourself accountable in regards to being, you can't talk about it if you don't know about it. So, take some classes, watch some podcasts, watch some webinars, stay ahead of it as much as you can, because knowledge is king, right?
I agree. Yeah. I think they used to say cash is king, but now it's knowledge. Who has the knowledge and uses said knowledge, I think they say now has the power, which we all individually have. We should all be doing that. I couldn't agree more with you.
But
Jennifer.
at the same time, it's never been easier to learn whatever it is you want to learn, whether it's going on YouTube or, Code Academy or even LinkedIn. You can learn, if you want to learn how to optimize SEO optimization, if you want to learn more about data literacy, if you want to learn any of these things, nothing is stopping you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Practice AI podcast. I am Krista G. I am the Business Development Manager here at PAI. I'm in charge of partnership and sales. And I'm so excited to have as my guests today on our show, Nancy Vallejo and Jennifer Marsh from Alert Communications, who are new partners with Practice AI. Welcome, ladies, to the broadcast. I'd love to just pitch it to you for a quick second and have you each give us just a really brief intro on yourselves. So Nancy, let's start with you.
Sure. My name is Nancy Vallejo. I have been with Alert Communications for a total of 26 years. I am presently the Director of Sales Enablement, and I manage our strategic partnerships, which is how we met. Yes, that's how we met.
My name is Jennifer Marsh. I'm the Director of Product Management, and I've only been with Alert Communications since this past summer. I'm focused on the AI space and the AI products we have here at Alert and our sister company. So that's where I started.
We're glad to have you both with us today. Are you guys okay if we start with just like a fun little icebreaker before we jump into the meat and potatoes?
Sure.
Awesome. So I'd love to have you both answer this for me. So if AI could take one annoying task off your plate forever, personal or professional, what would it be and what would you do with the extra time instead?
I'll start. Definitely meal prepping and cooking. Like something that understands every single person in my house's bizarre food preferences, can order the food for me, tell me what, even if I still have to cook it, but it'll tell me what to cook and when. That would be amazing. I spend way too much time trying to figure out dinner every night, and I'm tired of it. And I mean, if I didn't have to do that, any number of things that I could do instead. Get outside, go for a walk.
I feel like that's kind of a tired thing. It's always like you come back to it 3 times a day. Okay, what are we doing for our next meal? And you think we'd have a better way of getting through it, but we sort of don't. So, Nancy, what about you?
That's fun. You know what? Okay, so Excel is the bane of my existence. So monthly reporting where I have to look at 3 or 4 different places to get what I need to complete certain Excel reports. I would love for that to be taken away from me, which is pretty funny because it has to do with math, and every single test I've taken in my whole life where it tells you what job you're supposed to, be great at. And I always get accountant. Which is wild because math is not, no thanks, math. Someone else can math. Nancy doesn't like to math. Nancy does not like to math unless it's unless it's adding. But anyway, yeah, just using AI to get all, I know there's a way to make it happen. It's 4 or 5 different places. But if that could get taken care of, I mean, I would go for a nice leisurely walk and not worry about this monthly report that I have to work in for Excel. That's my answer.
I love that. I feel like I've got one big giant G sheet right now that's managing a lot of what's going on with the partner program. And there's multiple tabs, including summary reporting tabs. I would love to have an AI assistant that I could literally just talk to and say, okay, go get me all of my summary numbers, Here's the pertinent dates that need to go into this plan. Add those into the spreadsheet. And oh, by the way, deliver me the finished report. And I'm with you, Nancy. I feel like if I could have that done, then life would just be amazing. And yet I don't think we're quite there yet with AI. Although I've met people that think, and I'm curious to hear, Nancy, from you as well, and on the partnership side, that when you talk to them about AI, they feel like it's this robot you're going to pull out of your car, plug a cable into it, and it's literally going to solve all of your problems. And then while thinking that, there's like two camps, the people that are like, yeah, go, this AI thing is really cool. And the other side that's like, hey, yeah, I don't think so. I've seen Terminator. That's just literally not something I feel like I want to repeat. And so I think one of the things that I'm most excited to talk to you guys about is that, intersection of AI into the legal space and like what that all really means, for Alert. And I think just for law firms in general, because it definitely has its place and it's not necessarily where people think it is, I think. So with the combined experience that you both have with the partnerships in terms of AI development, Jennifer, and then time together at Alert, how do you feel like your roles are shaping Alert's evolution? And I want to touch on a key point inside of that, because I want to look through the lens of women in leadership. And Nancy, this is something we really touched on when we talked first about let's get together and do a podcast, because I feel like there's some differences there. And so to have powerful women in that seat on the tech side and the partnership side, driving revenue in both cases, how do you feel like you're shaping what's going on at Alert?
In addition to being at Alert, I started my career as a practicing attorney, and I was a practicing attorney for almost 10 years. And then in about 2008, I moved on to a legal research product where I've been building data products since about that time in a few different roles. So because I found it interesting, learned data science, learned machine learning, learned artificial intelligence, learned about product management, how to manage and scale a product. So I personally feel like my impact coming into Alert, it was a more traditional company. It's been around a long time, and it was a service-based industry, but now we're bringing on a more technical product. I felt like it was my job, or I feel like it is my job, to not just shape the product and how it works with our users, but also change the way we think about products and why we create products, and sharing the knowledge and the information that I have from my sort of twisty-turny type of background. But it brings a lot of things together, both my understanding of the legal space as well as, product and data. Not everybody is as familiar with these concepts, especially if you don't come from a technical background. So how do I take the information that I have and spread it out so that everybody can do the kinds of things that I can do based on my experience? Like, I don't think a leader should come in and just dictate to others. I think it's part of leadership to share the knowledge that you have and share the experience that you have and empower others to be able to do more of what you can do. And if I have some sort of unique information and experience, that's where I feel like my real job is to change how we think about products versus service, and how do we scale, and how do we use data to make better decisions, and teach others how to do the same thing.
I think I love that. And I think you're touching too on something I like to call servant leadership, because you're talking about really coming in and serving alongside those that actually might in fact be working for you. And then also now the way things are working, I think, inside companies is you sometimes have resources that owe you product or work, but that don't necessarily report to you. And so you can't always come in and just start dictating. I think you do have to come from a place of service and figure out how to work alongside others. Nancy, what would be your comment through your lens of where you're sitting?
I feel like Jennifer hit the nail on the head there. For me, because I've been with the company for so long, folks that I work with, a lot of us are in that if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mentality. It's worked for us this long, why mess with it? And it's like, okay, well, we're kind of getting in our own way. Let's move out of our own way. Let's learn. Let's see how this can be a benefit to not just our clients, but to ourselves as well. And just being that, hey, you guys, it's going to be okay. It's all right. Let's just try it. It's not It's not the end all be all. If it doesn't work, it's all good. We'll be fine. But just being that person who's like, hey, it's going to be okay. Because there are folks who'll come to me and be like, what do you think? And it's like, you guys, it's going to be okay. We've been in it for this long. Let's just keep going and learn and keep going.
Thanks, Nancy, for your answer. I want to kind of dive into the area of partnerships a little bit, if that's okay.
Okay.
And, over your time at Alert, you have built and maintained some complex partnerships, I would imagine. So what are like your top 2 rules for making partnerships work long term?
I would say number 1 is transparency, and number 2 would be ownership. I mean, our people are humans, and sometimes things don't go as planned, and just keeping that communication open with our partners along the transparency line, saying, hey, we're working on this, or hey, I know this happened, thanks for the opportunity to make it right. Again, we're dealing with humans. Yes, we have the AI implemented in some areas, but at the end of the day, it's human driven. We have legal intake specialists who are really our most valuable asset here. We love our people and know that, we need to make sure that they stay happy. But I would say those 2 things are the top 2 things, and just that communication, keeping that communication going, and just being transparent and owning things.
And so, like, just kind of diving a little bit into that, but then going alongside of it with respect to how it's working with clients and law firms. So AI, I feel like, again, there's a couple different camps and feelings when it comes to bringing AI into the legal mix. So selling those kinds of solutions, whether it be for a partnership or directly to the client, can be tough. And we've seen that even here at PAI. So do you feel like there are some common objections on both of those fronts that Alert is facing? And would you be able to share them with us? Like, what is your strategy for getting around those?
Sure. I mean, common objections would be coming from a place where you don't know what you don't know. Right. So just explaining how we utilize it. We look at it as a tool where our clients are investing money in marketing, advertising. They're doing the right things to get their phones to ring, to get those leads in. Why would you invest money and risk losing some of that by not having someone or something making sure that there's 100% answer all of the time? And so with the AI tool specifically, we have a little hashtag where it's like alert always answers, which means you're always going to get an answer. So that AI will pick up within a second or 2, and it'll vet, is it a prospect calling in? Is it a revenue generating instance where it's a potential client where we may need to transfer that to a legal intake specialist? Or is it someone following up, or Joe from across the street calling to say that the lights are on and it's 10 o'clock at night, and it'll take a message. So just talking about how it's utilized and still implementing that human element, the legal intake specialist who's going to complete the intake, schedule the appointment, send a retainer, have it signed, all of that follow-up. So just educating folks on how we use it. That's where I talk about, how we use it. It's a tool and not, a complete, just that's all we're doing.
Jennifer, I'd love to kind of have you speak to us a little bit more. And we're going to piggyback off what Nancy was talking about how you are within the systems that you're building for AI, preserving, empathy and personalization inside that process. Because as you've mentioned, Nancy, we're not necessarily trying to edge out a human. We're trying to really enhance that experience. But AI is in fact not human. So Jennifer, will you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to preserve those feelings for the person who's on the other end?
Sure. And the product that we've developed here and that we're implementing here, I should say, we're implementing this product and using it on these various use cases, is a conversational AI product. And empathy, in the way that we think about it in a telephone conversation, is actually not difficult for the AI to mimic. I'm not saying it has real feelings, but it can understand and respond appropriately when it is on a call. So that's not its biggest challenge. I think, you spoke about before about how there's these, the full-on AI proponents and then the AI skeptics. I always sit in the middle. Even as the AI person, I sit in the middle. I look at AI as something that can, especially generative AI, what we are doing right now here with conversational AI, it can perform certain tasks, and it can perform certain tasks very efficiently, but it can't do others. Right? So it can, as Nancy was alluding to, take a call and triage that call, weeding out stuff that's just going to waste your time, or while also collecting and maintaining certain data from that call. It can collect and maintain certain data, but kind of put it to the side for you to deal with later while triaging the important calls through to humans that can really do a deep dive into the intake. So I always look at AI as, and whether it is the current generative AI or machine learning or something else, what is the task that we really need that AI to perform? And is it good at that task, or is a human better? Through the last, 20, 25 years in every workplace, whether they're a legal workplace or a business workplace, we have been changing how we deal with work processes. We don't do the same things. When I was in law school, we were still mainly using, I'm going to date myself, books, and online research was just starting. I think it started with a CD when I just graduated from law school, right? And now, yeah, sometimes you'll pick up a book, but for the most part, you're using legal research products, online products, brief analyzers, citation analysis products. All of those have been using AI for now well over a decade or more in machine learning, right? And no one would even think of going to the library, if there's any attorneys who are listening, and shepherdizing, pulling the books and trying to figure out whether a case is still good law by hand. It was a pain in the neck. And it now, machine learning and other artificial intelligence has caused that to become not the way to do it. And I think of the same thing with basic admin tasks, which is what this is. It can answer the phone. It can determine, is this a high value case or is it not a high value case, based on, asked about personalization, based on the questions that you would have. Let's say, you're a personal injury attorney who handles certain kinds of motor vehicle accidents, and you're really interested, you've put out your marketing and you're very interested in a particular type of case. You could ask some pre-qualifying questions to make sure that this potential client is the kind of client that you think that your firm can help. And then that client can be passed along to someone to dive deeper into the intake process, while the other calls, you can maintain all of that data and figure out what to do with it later, but you're not necessarily taking up the intake specialist time up front with every potential lead that might not actually be a good fit for your firm. So it's really understanding the tasks and aligning those tasks with the value of the product or person and what they bring to the table. That's how I look at it. And if you do it right, then you kind of get the best of both worlds.
I agree with you. I think, I think AI definitely has its place. There's something that you just mentioned that I want to go a little bit deeper with. And you said that, AI, we've been using it for research and for other things for over a decade now. Do you feel like most people are actually aware of that that's part of what's going on? Because then I wonder, if everyone knew that, do you think there would still be as much hesitation, pushback, fear of what AI is really going to do?
I have been trying to scream that from the rooftops of social media, LinkedIn, for this is not new. We've been using Okay, what is new is generative AI. Generative AI, the ability to take textual data and create new data out of it, is new. It's an advancement. But AI, as an umbrella term, machine learning, classification, have been used in all your favorite legal research products for more over a decade, 15 years or so. We've been building out all those processes, those base processes within not just legal research products, but also e-discovery that you might be using to try to find that responsive statement in a document. E-discovery was moved into more tech stack maybe 2 decades ago. We were starting to do that. your document management program, your intake, like products like Clio and other products like that, where you're actually taking your case management and contract lifetime, your contracting software. All of those various forms of legal technology are built on a number of different processes, many of which involve artificial intelligence. And that has been the case for a long time. It's just a different kind of artificial intelligence. It's a machine learning or predictive type artificial intelligence. It's natural language processing, which is how you break down text and find things, right? All of that has been evolving over time. This is just the latest piece of it that suddenly got everyone so excited about, because before, all of those little bits of AI were within the product that you didn't see. You didn't know why that case had a red flag or who was responsible for it. And yes, sometimes there are humans in the background trying to figure out whether that red flag is accurate. But for the most part, I bet, and I don't know because I haven't worked at every legal research product, but I bet for the most part, if this is looking at a case and determining whether it's good law and you get a red flag or a green flag on it, the majority of the processes that put that red flag up there a lot of them are based on predictive machine learning and natural language processing and other techniques to try to figure that out. It's not all just humans doing that. And so the difference with generative AI is just because it's become so much more accessible. Everyone can go on ChatGPT and sign up for it and actually start playing with AI, where before people just didn't know that they were dealing with artificial intelligence. And I think that's the big difference, like in the excitement of like, oh, I can play with it, get my hands dirty with it myself and see it for better or for worse. And before it was just kind of embedded. I mean, even your email, you go into your email right now and it's like putting spam, not spam, spam, not spam. That's machine learning. That's where that is. Everyone's dealing with AI and has for a long time.
I almost feel like we need a class that's like AI 101. What it is, what it isn't. Like with all the points that you're highlighting, where has it been that you weren't aware that it was for the past decade, helping and supporting you to help people really understand how it could potentially fit? Because in all the conversations I'm having, and Nancy, I want to hear more from you on this as well, it just seems like there's a lot of underlying fear. And I'm wondering if the heart of that is we're really afraid that our jobs are going to get edged out because we're developing computing that is so much smarter, so much quicker. It has the ability to generate new data, as you're talking about, Jennifer. So do you feel like, I want to start with you, Jennifer, really quick, and then go over to you, Nancy, but do you feel like there is anything out there that's like an AI 101 that we could use to introduce to the legal industry so they could really feel the effect of where and how this fits? Or have we still not seen a player come to the table with anything like that yet?
Off the top of my head, I know I follow a lot of different content creators on I know I said it before on LinkedIn, but there's a number of people that are in this space. You do some searches and look for people in legal tech that are talking about AI. You'll probably come across some people to follow that are posting almost daily and talking about the different. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I do think pass it to Nancy. Give me 1 second and I'll come back and I'll I'll see. I do have an idea, but off the top of my head, I need a second.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in, Nancy, please.
You know what? I'm thinking, it's such a shame. Krista, when we were at our last conference together, I did miss a session that I wanted to vet a little bit more. And I can't for the life of me remember who it was, but they were talking about using AI to grade the value of the case. And so I was talking to someone and I couldn't make that session. But that's who popped into my mind was these folks. And they were super excited to share this technology and how it graded the value of a case. So I've got their business cards somewhere and I'll be reaching out to them. But yeah, that's what popped into my head is something like that.
Okay. So by value of the case, are we saying, potential settlement amounts?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, that's really exciting, actually, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really exciting technology. I think there's a lot of exciting things that AI is bringing to the table. And actually, Jennifer, now that when you started touching on where AI has been that maybe we all really weren't aware of, it's funny because I have a technical degree and I worked in the tech space for a very long time, but it never occurred to me that that's actually what was going on in the background, because you're right. It sort of seems like AI just popped up recently on the scene. But now that you mention it, you're right. There is a ton of things that have been going on that I think AI was working in the background on to support us.
We were doing text-based. I worked for Bloomberg Law for a number of years, almost 14 years. And I worked on a textual-based points of law product, which was predicting sort of the intersection of various points of law and how they evolved over time in 2010. So that's, now 15 years ago, where we were really sort of getting, and that's natural language processing and prediction. So it's been seeping and creeping in all around us. I mean, even my smart thermostat in the dining room is learning all the time what temperature it should be at, right? Like, it's literally everywhere. But it just seems to have just popped up. I apologize. I was looking for a particular CLE provider that I can't think off the top of my head who they are, but I do know that a bunch of new CLE providers out there are incorporating basic artificial intelligence products. And I know it's maybe not quite what Alert does, but thinking about it in sort of the legal research space, in the document creation space, in, the document management space, how to do so ethically, how to do so while understanding the limitations of the tool and making sure you check those sites and don't submit anything to the court with made up cases and all of those things. But it's just across the board. I think it's something that we need to demystify and just not think about as this scary thing that's going to take all our jobs and take over the world, and just think about it as it is really good at creating certain kinds of content under certain circumstances, particularly conversation, chatting, either in text or verbally, like the voice. Translation, it's pretty good at translation, although I heard someone argued with me that it's really more of a literal translation. It's not really good at more holistic translation, but it is good at translating tasks, not just language to language, but also break this down and explain this to me like I'm 5 years old, and kind of explaining content, things like that. It's really, really good at. Other things that it's not good at, it is by generative AI. Now I'm talking about, not other kinds of AI. Generative AI is predicting the next piece of content. So it is not telling you what's true. It is telling you what it predicts the next thing to be, which is why it's really good at chatting, which is why it's really good at translation and tasks like that, and summarization, and, explain this to me, and why it is not as good at something like, find me this research article that says XYZ, because it'll go find it. It just might not exist. Because it's predicting, because it's not going to find something and bring it back and tell you what's true. It is going to predict what that answer should be, whether it exists or not. And understanding that nuance of what generative AI and why it's is really important to using it for the right kinds of use cases. And when it's used for other kinds of use cases, understanding that you're going to have to verify and you're going to have to think about it differently. Because if you just say, create this motion for me, or create this letter and create this document and put a bunch of cases in it with citations and all of that, and just do that, it'll do it. But it's not going to be accurate or right, with varying levels of accuracy, depending on, whether you're just doing it in ChatGPT or you're doing it in a product that has other mechanisms in there to make it a little bit better.
I think that's actually really interesting what you're touching on, because the last several conversations that I've had around AI, there was a lot with respect to hallucinations and literally just creating documents and citing things that literally did not exist. And so I think one of the biggest questions that we get here at PAI with respect to how we are doing things like medical summaries, for instance, or demand letter generation is, how did our CTO deal with hallucinations? And my understanding is we dealt with them heavily in the beginning, and now not so much. And we're also having our systems cite exactly what's being fed into it.
I'm going to challenge that a little bit. And I think, because this is another thing that I've been trying to scream from the rooftop. everything that you're getting back from the AI when you're talking about generative AI is a hallucination. It is never not hallucinating. That's what it does. The question is not whether it's hallucinating or not hallucinating. And some other data scientist type can come in here and argue with me. It's whether or not that hallucination, the output, is right or not.
Good
because
point.
It's always doing the same thing. It's predicting the next bit of content, which is why, like I said, it works really well in a conversational situation because it's very good at predicting what the response should be. Empathy is not a problem for it. It understands what the empathy, you tell it to be empathetic, it will empathize. Sometimes it can empathize with you a little too much. You got to pull it back a little bit. Okay, stop. You're really empathizing. But it'll do what you tell it to do, and it'll predict the right response. That's not really a problem with it. I think what we do and what we need to think about is, are you providing enough context? Are you understanding how these conversations are going to go and what people are going to ask and what might go wrong? And are you providing enough context to the tool to box it in and answer questions within that context and to answer things differently if people try to sway it off course? If they try to ask for, say, legal advice or medical advice or whatever, do you deal with that situation? Our AI is very good at redirecting the person back because we have constrained it, but it's doing the same thing. It's just you box it in and you give it the context. So when you have these questions, it knows how to deal with them and it knows how to answer them and predict correctly, as opposed to just pull something out of the air.
I feel like there's a lot of strategy, and I'm talking to fractional C-suite a lot right now too, who are looking for various solutions to bring into law firms and to recommend. Obviously, AI, they're looking at things all the time, very high on the list. And I just want to get your thoughts on something with respect to like careers in this industry. I'm seeing like Wharton School of Business, for instance, they're cranking out AI certification, classes. You can spend as much as, $20,000, $30,000 to go to school to get a certificate that says, you're now qualified to be a chief AI officer. So it's almost like a new C-suite position is spawning itself. Do you feel that there is a great need for that when it comes to the strategy? Somebody in there that understands AI, Jennifer, not obviously to the same level or degree that you do, but with that spin of understanding all the things that are important for consideration of how to bring that into a firm strategically, or any business for that matter.
I think people need to learn data and start there. I don't think in most companies, and law firms included, really have a good handle on their data and understand how to structure and use their data and how to maintain a good database with clean data that you can query and do things with. From there, people need to understand machine learning and artificial intelligence in general, and then get more specialized into these various things. I question the validity of just an artificial intelligence certificate if one hasn't done the work through regular data science and data analytics and understanding how data can be used. Because just like I was talking about the generative AI example, like, why would you use generative AI for something that's better handled with a classification model? And if you don't know the difference between what generative AI can do and what it produces versus what something else can do, and I'm not even the most highly technical person. I'm not even there are PhD level data scientists out there that are really know this stuff. So they probably listen to me and think I'm ridiculous. But really understanding these different ways of working with data and why we work with data, it's not just about artificial intelligence. And it's not, and I think you kind of said something in the middle that everyone thinks that, oh, there's this hard problem and there's this really tough problem. I wish AI can solve it for me. Why?
Yeah.
Like, why are we thinking that way? We think that AI means there's an easy button. And that's it. And if we're just certifying people and saying, okay, we're going to solve every problem with AI, AI is not going to solve all our problems. It can't solve all our problems. pieces of AI are good at very specific things. We still need to look at our end-to-end business processes and workflows and look at every single part of that and say, is this a human should be doing this? Does someone outsource need to be doing this? Can we build an automation that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with artificial intelligence to handle this thing? Can we build a better Excel spreadsheet so, Nancy, you don't have to struggle with those numbers and it doesn't necessarily require any artificial intelligence? Maybe it's just a macro, right? Like there's so many things right now that we like really just go to artificial intelligence. Oh, and all over. I get it all the time. Can AI help? Have this problem. Can AI help with that? I don't know. What are we starting with? Where are we starting to struggle? Let's look at the problem and let's look at how we can fix it. So do I think that law firms with any business need to go out and hire a C-suite level artificial intelligence person? Probably not. Probably they need to deal with their data first. They need to figure out where their data is, how is it structured, where is it stored, is it clean, can you query it, can you work with it, is your billing data locked in some program over here with your client data locked over here, and never the twain shall really meet, and you don't know how much, you can't even average. For a case like this, what is our average time billed or whatever it is? Like if you can't answer these basic questions, AI isn't going to help you and it's not going to give you anything good. Like you're going to have to start with hire a really good data person to build a really good database and clean up the data and start there and then worry about all these higher level things that you're going to do with it. Because if you don't have the good data, you're not going to be able to do anything good with it anyway.
And I think a lot of businesses, law firms, every business should be concerned with good, clean data, I think, because you're right. And if you don't have that, there's really nowhere for you to go. Nancy, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts as well on the new C-suite, that's coming out surrounding AI and, what you think about that. And if you've actually run into anybody who's now in one of these brand new positions, based on your partnership conversations.
Right. I have not, having Jennifer join our team has just been phenomenal for us. I mean, what a rock star. I could just be like, go ahead, Jennifer, go ahead. But there's something that she said that it's that easy button perception. That it's like, yes, obviously, we want to streamline things and be more efficient with things, but, wanting to jump into experts and, this, what you mentioned in regards to new roles and whatnot, filling that AI perception, I feel like it's based off of wanting that easy button, and it doesn't always work that way. So does that answer your question? Because I feel like, it's just like, we still got to work at stuff, y'all. We can't just use it, try and find let's just push this easy button and done. Still got to put in the work, y'all.
I agree. We do. Do you mind if we switch to something very briefly before we conclude that might be a little bit more sensitive? And this is kind of around AI. It's in the career space, but I'm watching a lot on LinkedIn. I'm watching a lot of people who I think are really struggling right now. There is this perception, I think, and again, I use the word perception because I think there's a big difference between what we think is going on and what's really going on. But there is this perception that AI is taking jobs. And I'm seeing a lot of chatter on LinkedIn where people are just getting very raw, very real about the difficulties that they're having. And alongside of that, they're talking a lot about AI in the applicant tracking systems or in ATS and how that's being used, to really help people screen more candidates, screen better, screen faster. But I'm seeing people get raw about their professional career struggles. Do you guys have any thoughts that you'd be willing to share with us on how AI is factoring into your hiring process?
Given that neither one of us are really in HR and recruiting, I don't know that we can really speak to that specifically. I think most products that are used to receive applications do have some form of AI in it. But, I think that a lot of places are still touching every single application and reviewing each resume that comes in because of those reasons. And I have to say that from what I have seen, if you're using AI product as part of one of those, for me, and maybe I'm a little bit biased, that's like it's a predictive task. Like I'm going to predict the right applicant based on all of these coming in. And I don't know that at least generative AI, if they're touting generative AI to be able to do that, I don't know that it's really good at that. And that does give me a lot of concerns, especially being a woman and being an older woman and a woman with a non-traditional background. I certainly don't feel super comfortable getting screened out in that way. But I think that when it comes more broadly to, are people going to lose jobs? Here's how I think about it. And again, I try to always take this sort of nuanced middle ground. Are jobs going to be affected by artificial intelligence? Yes, and they have. I think that any of us who's been in the workplace for a certain length of time has seen jobs evolve. That which we would have a person do 20 years ago is not efficient for a person to do anymore. We are constantly looking at business processes, workflows, and tasks and automating them. And as we automate, it's usually the easy, repetitive, tedious tasks. When I used to run a data team, I used to run this data team that had lawyers and data analysts and on it. I used to say, if there's any task that makes you go, oh, I hate doing that. Spreadsheet. Nancy, I hate that, the spreadsheet. Like when you feel that, that's your automation opportunity. Because if you do that repeatedly and you do that all the time, then you shouldn't be doing it because it's boring and it's tedious. And we need to figure out a way to innovate that, right? But that innovation push, that efficiency push has been going on forever, since typewriters were replaced by computers that were replaced by, so all of us as workers are going to have to look at our own tasks and things that we do and think, is this worth my time? And if it's not, we have to start upskilling ourselves. I was not a young worker when I was on Code Academy learning Python and SQL and data analytics and data science and natural language processing, and the reason why I did that was to give myself more options in my career, to not be thought of as just, someone who came from a legal background and therefore can't do math and can't do technology and can never learn to code and all of those other things. I purposely pushed myself, do an hour a night, do 30 minutes a night, learn, watch things in the space. We all need to do that. We all need to understand how to upskill and how to use technology and how to understand our tasks and whether they're worth our time. Because as technology advances and automation advances, we need to learn what we're going to farm to that automation and what we're going to keep to ourselves. Now, in the legal space in particular, automation can't possibly counsel and nuance and think about things the way that an attorney working with their client can. It's not a replacement for that, but it is a replacement for checking that a site is good law or not, right? Assuming you have the right kind of product, not generative AI, but right? Like I wouldn't use it around, but right, like there's these tasks that we don't do anymore in all, not just legal jobs, in all jobs. There's things that we just don't do anymore because it's not worth our time to do those things anymore. And we're all going to have to think that way. How do we upskill? How do we provide value? How do we think of ourselves as providing a product or service to others? And how do we keep ourselves important and relevant and moving forward? I think if we think that we're just going to come in and we are who we are and we're going to punch our clock and do our thing and hold on to maybe whatever knowledge we have without sharing and without pushing ourselves and then that's not a good sign. If we're evolving and pushing ourselves and staying relevant and we're really starting to see where we can add value, that's how we stay ahead of whatever AI is going to do.
Nancy, your thoughts on that last piece?
I mean, my goodness, what an answer. Definitely. Like I've already made a mental note. Okay, I need to take some more classes and get on Jen's level. But it really is about holding yourself accountable in regards to being, you can't talk about it if you don't know about it. So, take some classes, watch some podcasts, watch some webinars, stay ahead of it as much as you can, because knowledge is king, right?
I agree. Yeah. I think they used to say cash is king, but now it's knowledge. Who has the knowledge and uses said knowledge, I think they say now has the power, which we all individually have. We should all be doing that. I couldn't agree more with you.
But
Jennifer,
at the same time, it's never been easier to learn whatever it is you want to learn, whether it's going on YouTube or, Code Academy or even LinkedIn. You can learn, if you want to learn how to optimize SEO optimization, if you want to learn more about data literacy, if you want to learn any of these things, nothing is stopping you. And it's free. Like, you can go Google and research. There's never been a time where knowledge was just so accessible. It's just a question of us giving ourselves the permission and the opportunity and the time and the space to have questions about things and say, okay, I'm going to go learn that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So with all of that in mind, what do you both see as being next for Alert in the AI space? And how do you feel like your respective departments are really shaping that initiative in that direction?
That's all you, Jennifer.
So, okay, there's a couple things. One of the things that I'm really thinking about and trying to think about a lot is really understanding, where I started, which is what tasks and end-to-end tasks and how does it help, and where does the human agent need to be? Where does the AI need to be? What's the right mix? What a big differentiator for Alert. And I'm not saying we're the only, but we are one of the few companies that has the option to not just do AI call answering, but AI call answering with a live option, so that we can really split those tasks and split those processes to align things that need to be more efficient and need to be done more efficiently. If it's just taking a message or if it's just doing some pre-qualification, there's no reason why a person needs to do that. And in many cases, a person isn't necessarily as efficient at doing some of those things. But the more nuanced decision making and the in-depth analysis and all of those things are really where the person needs to be. So kind of understanding how to split those tasks and recommend the split. Like, okay, so this is how we recommend this going. These should be handled by an AI. This is what we should do. And then this is where we think the person needs to step in and take over. So that's one piece. The other piece that I think that we need to be able to do better, and I'm trying to explain this in a way. So it is hard, even using AI and generative AI, it is hard to feed back real information, so that if a person is calling to actually, say, hard book an appointment on a calendar, I know some people are doing it with some basic tools, but when you really get into complex CRMs and complex tools, to be able to dip into another data set in real time, retrieve an answer, and use that as part of the analysis. That's, I think, where we need to be going. I think we're not there yet, but I think coming up with more creative ways to be able to, we have certain context and textual, right? Like, we can have your FAQs of your firm and where everyone went to, we can put a lot of information and data, but live data that we can constantly take a look at and use to respond. That's, I think, the next real step, as well as better language translation. We do offer AI both in English and Spanish, and we're exploring other languages. But I would want to see easier way to do real time. Like, I just start speaking another language and it knows, and it can go along with me. It's not quite there. There's a lot more to that, including like getting the right transcription and making sure it's accurate, and having people that can actually test in various languages and make sure that it's actually doing what we think it's doing. And so there's a lot more to just saying, okay, I'm going to just turn it on in different languages. I mean, maybe people are doing that, but I don't know that they're thoroughly testing that it can do all the different things that we think it can do, right? So broader language capabilities. I would love to see a world where you can just start speaking in any language and it can interact with you in that language appropriately and and as well as being updated with real-time data coming from another source in a way that's effective. That's another. And then just really getting better at understanding the mix of human and AI tasks and why we would do certain things a certain way. I think that's the level of sophistication and where we need to be going when it comes to like call answering and customer service. And I think that we are really sort of at the forefront of that and going through the different things to get there. But that's where I see us going.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our episode. Thanks so much, both of you, for joining us today. It was so much fun to have you out and to get to have this conversation back and forth. I feel like I learned a lot. So thank you. We really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.